Hello and welcome to Investment Insight. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. Now let's break down what's happening in the markets today in a clear and simple way.
Sounds good. Let's get right into it.
So, imagine waking up on a Tuesday morning, right? You find out that the core software protecting your company's entire cybersecurity grid, like the system your engineers rely on every day, has just been unplugged.
Yeah, just totally gone.
Exactly. But not by a cybercriminal and not by some random glitch. It was unplugged by your country's closest geopolitical ally. Welcome to our deep dive.
It's a crazy scenario, but it's exactly what we're seeing.
Right. Because based on recent analysis, we are tracking this massive, game-changing shift in the business of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
We're watching the AI industry completely transform from this, high-growth, relatively unrestricted software boom into a heavily guarded national defense sector.
Yeah, highly regulated.
And today, our mission is to explore exactly what this means for you and your portfolio. We're going to skip the complicated jargon and just break it down.
Because the landscape is, it is fundamentally shifting right under our feet. For the last few years, we've viewed AI mostly through the lens of, consumer tech, chatbots, productivity tools, that sort of thing.
Yeah, writing emails.
Exactly. But the data we're looking at today paints a very different picture. We are entering an era where governments are treating top-tier AI models with the same level of security as, advanced aerospace technology or nuclear materials.
Nuclear materials, wow.
Yeah, it's that serious. And understanding this pivot is critical for anyone trying to navigate the markets right now.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
To really grasp what is happening, I think we need a solid mental model. So think about a high-security bank vault.
Okay, I'm with you.
For years, the global tech race was all about the raw materials required to build that vault. So the government heavily regulated who could buy the high-grade steel and the reinforced concrete, right?
Right, which in the AI world, that represents the actual computer chips, the physical hardware, the GPUs.
Exactly. But recently, based on the data, that strategy has abruptly shifted. The U.S. government is no longer just regulating the raw materials. They have suddenly started regulating who is allowed to hold the keys to the vault itself.
They're locking down access to the actual AI software.
Right. And, what is the fallout of that?
Well, what's fascinating here is the sheer scale of the disruption. This isn't a conventional story about the United States simply withholding technology from adversary nations.
If that happens all the time, right?
Yeah, it happens constantly, and the markets generally price that in. But what we are seeing is a fundamental change under the Trump administration in how global allies, partner nations, and international corporations are forced to treat American-made artificial intelligence.
It's total reevaluation of trust.
Exactly. Trust, security, and honestly, supply chain vulnerability.
So to see exactly how this impacts the market, we really have to look at the catalyst. Yeah. There was a specific event in mid-June 2026 that just sent absolute shockwaves through the tech sector.
Oh, absolutely. The Anthropic ban.
Right. So according to the data, the U.S. government ordered Anthropic, which is one of the premier AI developers in the world, to immediately halt access to its top-tier AI models for foreign nationals.
This is an outright ban.
Yeah. And here's where it gets wild. Because Anthropic couldn't easily filter out just the foreign users from their massive enterprise systems, they basically resorted to the nuclear option.
They pulled the plug on everyone.
They abruptly paused access for everyone.
It was a very blunt force approach, but, we have to look at the mechanics of why that actually happened. Geofencing, which is trying to restrict digital access based on a user's physical location, is notoriously difficult at the enterprise level.
Oh, because of VPNs and stuff.
Exactly. In a globalized economy, corporate networks are just incredibly complex. An engineer for a German manufacturing company might be logging into an American server via a virtual private network.
Right, so you can't really tell where they are.
Precisely. To perfectly segregate users by nationality in real time simply wasn't reliable enough to meet the government's strict zero-tolerance demands. Ah, I see.
So rather than risk a catastrophic federal compliance violation, Anthropic just pulled the plug across the board.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more, because when I first read through the recent analysis, I was genuinely confused by the scope. Are all of Anthropic's AI models shut down? Or just specific ones, and why?
That is a crucial distinction. The everyday ecosystem is completely fine.
Okay, good. Because millions of people use standard Claude models every day to, draft emails or summarize long PDFs.
Yeah, those standard older Claude models are still running perfectly. The ban was actually highly surgical. It specifically targeted their brand new absolute top-tier models.
Which ones were those?
Claude Fable 5 and Claude Mythos 5, which had just launched on June 9th, 2026.
Okay, so the government isn't really worried about the AI that writes marketing copy. They are worried about these bleeding-edge models.
Exactly. And to understand the government's fear, we have to look at how these two specific models function. So Fable 5 is the public-facing version of this new ultra-powerful intelligence.
Under the hood, it has heavy safety guardrails programmed in through a process called reinforcement learning from human feedback. Essentially, it has a programmed conscience.
A programmed conscience.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So if you ask Fable 5 to write malicious computer code to hack a power grid, the system classifies the request as dangerous and just refuses to output the code.
Makes sense. So what about Mythos 5?
Well, Mythos 5 is the exact same underlying neural network. It possesses the exact same core intelligence, but those safety guardrails have been completely stripped away.
Wait, really? No guardrails at all?
None. It was never designed for the public. It was built exclusively for highly vetted cybersecurity partners under a specialized initiative called Project Glasswing.
Oh, okay. So it's basically like buying a high-performance sports car.
That's a good way to look at it.
Like Fable 5 is the street-legal version you can drive to the grocery store.
Yeah.
It has an electronic speed limiter installed in the engine block, so no matter how hard you press the gas pedal, you literally cannot push the car past 70 miles per hour. And then Mythos 5 is the track-only professional racing version of that exact same car,
Yeah.
but with the speed limiter removed and the engine fully unlocked.
That's a great way to visualize it. But we have to take that analogy a step further to understand the true risk here. The U.S. government isn't just worried about someone driving the track car too fast.
What are they worried about then?
Their logic revolves around what happens if a bad actor manages to modify the street-legal car. These models are unimaginably powerful.
Right.
The core fear is that if a sophisticated attacker manages to jailbreak Fable 5, meaning they find a clever logical loophole to bypass that programmed conscience, they essentially weaponize the AI.
Right, because we aren't talking about a chatbot saying something inappropriate. We are talking about an AI functioning as an automated, highly intelligent hacker.
Precisely.
So explain how that actually works in practice. How does a language model become a cyber weapon?
Well, it really comes down to processing speed and pattern recognition. A top-tier model without guardrails doesn't just guess passwords. It can autonomously ingest millions of lines of a company's legacy software code in, seconds.
Millions of lines. That's insane.
It is. It can map out the logical flow of a water treatment plant's digital infrastructure and identify a microscopic vulnerability, a zero-day flaw that human engineers completely missed.
Wow.
Now, in the hands of a defensive cybersecurity team, Mythos 5 is a miracle. They can use it to find the holes in their own bank security and patch them before anyone else notices.
But in the hands of an attacker.
Right. In the hands of an attacker, the AI finds those exact same holes and instantly writes a custom software script to exploit them.
At machine speed.
Exactly. Anthropic's own internal testing warned that if an unrestricted model got out into the wild, cyber attacks wouldn't just become more frequent, they would happen at machine speed. Human defenders simply wouldn't be able to react fast enough.
So the government stepped in and effectively said, the proliferation risk is too high, lock the vault.
Yep, they locked it down.
Which brings us to the collateral damage. And this is the part of the deep dive that really caught my attention. If this policy was just about keeping top-tier tech away from adversaries, like making sure foreign military operations couldn't access Mythos 5, the broader market wouldn't be panicking.
No, the market is used to that.
Right. The real shock of this June 2026 event, the thing that genuinely rattled investors, is that America's closest economic allies are the ones who found themselves locked out. Friends got caught in the crossfire.
They absolutely did. And this is where geopolitical reality violently collides with business operations. Based on the data, South Korea and Europe were heavily impacted by this sudden shutdown.
Yeah, the timeline detailed in the recent analysis is just staggering.
It's unbelievable.
On June 2nd and 3rd, Anthropic officially expanded this elite Project Glasswing to over 150 organizations across more than 15 countries. And South Korean corporate giants. We're talking about massive companies deeply integrated into the global economy, like Samsung Electronics, SK Hynix, and SK Telecom. They were officially granted access to this Mythos 5 model to bolster their own corporate cybersecurity.
They went through the vetting process, they were approved, they were in the club, they were prepared to integrate the most advanced defensive tools in the world into their infrastructure.
And then, barely 10 days later, the U.S. government directive comes down and cuts them off completely. 10 days.
I know, it's jarring.
They get the keys to the vault, they start planning their security architecture, and then the locks are changed without a word of warning.
And you can imagine the international reaction was instantaneous. The EU Commission stepped up right away. They stated clearly that emergency AI measures shouldn't discriminate against partner nations.
Yeah, they explicitly called for a need to establish European tech sovereignty.
Right. And tech sovereignty is a phrase that is going to dictate the next decade of capital expenditure.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. The irony here is thick. South Korea and Europe were actively trying to use this American AI to protect their systems from cyber attacks.
Exactly.
They were trying to harden their defenses, which theoretically benefits the entire global economy. And suddenly, the rug was pulled out from under them by their own ally.
It is deeply ironic. But, if we look closely at the policy dilemma facing the Trump administration, it's a classic agonizing trade-off.
How so?
Well, on one hand, you obviously want your allies to be secure. But on the other hand, if you leave top-tier AI open and accessible on servers situated globally, you introduce massive national security risks.
Because it could be stolen.
Exactly. It only takes one compromised corporate server in an allied nation for the model's weights to leak, or for its API to be hijacked.
Right. So by locking it down so aggressively, the administration chose absolute containment over international corporate harmony.
Yes. However, in doing so, they proved to the entire world that relying on American AI carries a massive, unpredictable operating risk.
Operating risk. Let's focus on that term because it's vital for you as an investor to understand. Operating risk means your business operations could literally just stop overnight.
Just come to a grinding halt.
Right. Not because your CEO made a bad strategic decision or because consumer demand dropped, but because of a foreign policy decision made in Washington, D.C.
Exactly. Imagine you are running a telecommunications giant in Europe. If your entire automated cybersecurity defense grid is built on the Claude Mythos 5 architecture and the U.S. government unplugs it on a random Tuesday, your company is suddenly blind.
Blind and defenseless against advanced attacks.
Yes. And board members across the globe are realizing that they cannot build a stable, long-term global enterprise on a technological foundation that might disappear at the stroke of a pen.
But wait, let me push back on this for a second. If I'm looking at this as a foreign company, what is the alternative? Isn't building a domestic AI ecosystem basically a pipe dream?
It's definitely not easy.
You can't just snap your fingers and catch up to Silicon Valley. It takes years of research, highly specialized talent, and billions of dollars in hardware. Do these countries even have the capacity to walk away from American AI?
It is an incredibly steep uphill battle, no doubt. But it is no longer viewed as a cost-benefit analysis. It is now viewed as an existential necessity.
Wow.
And that leads us to the massive new trend sweeping the markets, the sovereign AI boom.
Sovereign AI, let's break that down.
Sovereign AI means that countries and unified blocs like the EU have decided they must build their own domestic data centers. They are going to train their own domestic AI models engineered by their own citizens.
And run them entirely locally?
Exactly. They'll run them on closed, highly secure networks physically located within their own sovereign borders.
Okay, I like to think about it this way. Imagine you live in a rural area and you get your daily water supply from your neighbor's high-tech well.
Okay, I like analogies.
For years, the arrangement has been fantastic. It's incredibly cheap, it's easy, your neighbor maintains the complex pumping machinery, and you just pay a small, predictable monthly fee.
Sounds like a sweet deal.
Right. But then, one day, your neighbor gets spooked by a string of local burglaries. Without warning you, they put a massive padlock on the gate to protect their property. Suddenly, your house goes completely thirsty.
Yep.
At that exact moment, spending tens of thousands of dollars to bring in heavy machinery and dig your own well in your own backyard doesn't seem like a luxury or a bad financial investment anymore, does it? It becomes a survival necessity.
That is the exact realization taking hold in global boardrooms right now. According to the analysis we are reviewing today, regions like Europe, South Korea, Japan, India, and the Middle East are preparing to pour billions upon billions of dollars into localized AI infrastructure.
Billions.
Yes. The goal has completely shifted. It is no longer just about buying access to the absolute smartest, highest scoring AI on the market. It is about possessing an AI that your own government actually controls, an AI without a foreign kill switch.
And when I hear billions upon billions of dollars, my investor radar starts pinging.
Yeah.
Because this means everyone around the globe is going to be doing the exact same work.
Yep, reinventing the wheel.
It creates a massive, almost unprecedented wave of duplication in global tech spending. Instead of one massive, incredibly efficient superbrain in California serving the entire world via the cloud, we are going to see a dozen slightly less powerful, highly localized brains built in Paris, Seoul, Tokyo, and Mumbai.
That is the crucial economic takeaway. The fundamental efficiency of cloud computing, where everyone shares the same centralized, hyper-optimized resources, is fracturing.
It's splitting apart.
We are moving rapidly toward a fragmented, localized AI ecosystem. Yes, the overall cost of the global economy will be significantly higher due to all this duplicated effort, but these nations view that premium as the mandatory price of national security and technical independence.
So what does this all mean for the everyday investor looking at their portfolio right now? Let's take all of this geopolitical drama and a technical complexity and translate it into actionable market shifts.
Let's do it.
If the whole world is shifting towards sovereign AI, the balance of power in the tech sector has to change. If the model builders, companies like Anthropic and OpenAI, are now heavily restricted by these regulations, doesn't that immediately shift the power dynamic to the companies physically hosting the servers?
It absolutely does, and that is a perfect way to segment the market.
Yeah.
Let's look at the AI creators first. Being deemed a crucial national security asset by the U.S. government is a double-edged sword.
How so?
On one hand, it guarantees incredibly lucrative long-term government and defense contracts. But on the negative side, they now carry what we call a regulatory discount.
Because they can't sell to everyone anymore.
Exactly. Their potential global market size has instantly shrunk because they can no longer freely sell their top-tier products internationally. That cap on global reach directly impacts their overall valuation.
Right. So if the creators are bottlenecked, the cloud giants, the Amazons, Googles, and Microsofts of the world must be stepping into a very different role. They aren't just selling fast server space anymore.
Far from it. The major cloud providers are transforming into what you might call regulated AI access infrastructure. You need to start thinking of them less like nimble tech companies and more like highly regulated financial institutions.
Wow, like banks.
Yeah, exactly. They are going to compete intensely on compliance. If France mandates sovereign AI, the cloud provider has to physically prove through data localization that a prompt processed in a Parisian office never routes through a server in Virginia.
Ah, I see.
It will compete on who provides the most airtight audit logs, proving exactly who accessed which model at what time. It becomes a massive security and compliance moat.
And if compliance and security are suddenly the biggest priorities, and we are entering a world where these unrestricted models can write zero-day exploits in seconds, the cybersecurity sector must be bracing for absolute chaos.
Chaos and immense profitability. We are officially entering the era of automated AI attacks. The old paradigm of human-driven cybersecurity, where an analyst manually hunts for a breach, is entirely obsolete.
It's just too slow.
Way too slow. The bottleneck for hackers used to be the human labor required to write the exploit. Now, an AI can generate thousands of custom exploits per second.
So how do you even fight that?
The only viable way to defend against an AI attacking at machine speed is an AI defending at machine speed. Companies are going to desperately need model firewalls, automated code security, and real-time AI safety monitoring systems. It is fundamentally an AI versus AI arms race.
It's the ultimate defensive play for a portfolio. If the entire corporate world is terrified of automated AI hackers, you invest heavily in the AI bodyguard. But there's one final piece to this puzzle. If every country is suddenly digging their own well, to use our earlier analogy, they're going to need a lot of shovels.
And that points us to the long-term structural winners in this shift, hardware and chips.
Right, because everyone needs them.
This global push for sovereign AI means that France, South Korea, India, and Japan cannot rely on American data centers. They physically need to purchase their own high-end GPUs.
And all the stuff that goes with them.
Exactly. They need to build specialized data centers, which require thousands of miles of networking cables and massive industrial-scale liquid cooling equipment.
So the demand isn't just highly concentrated among a few megatech companies in Silicon Valley anymore. The demand is spreading out geographically.
Precisely. The pie is getting wider.
Hmm.
Even if the AI software market fragments into different localized ecosystems, the underlying physical infrastructure, the compute power, is now required by everyone everywhere simultaneously.
Man, that is wild. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really distills the core insight of everything we've explored today. For the last few years, the prevailing narrative was all about AI democratization.
Yep, tick for everyone.
We viewed AI as this boundless, democratized tool. Anyone with an internet connection anywhere in the world could log on and use the most advanced software ever created to write a poem, analyze a spreadsheet, or code a website.
But the data shows that the era of democratization effectively ended in June 2026. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have aggressively transitioned into an era of AI permission.
AI permission.
Top-tier artificial intelligence is now classified and managed as a highly restricted national resource. It is a technology that you must be explicitly granted permission to use. Your usage is under strict surveillance, and as South Korea and Europe learned the hard way, that permission can be unilaterally revoked at any given second.
It is a totally different paradigm for the markets.
Mm-hmm.
So to recap our deep dive today, AI is no longer just a high-flying passive software growth stock to hold in a standard tech fund.
Definitely not.
It has morphed into a complex, highly strategic blend of defense, cybersecurity, and national sovereignty. The Anthropic shock was the catalyst that proved even our closest allies could be locked out of the vault overnight.
Right?
And as a direct result, we are witnessing the massive rise of sovereign AI, where nations are scrambling to build their own independent AI ecosystems to eliminate operating risk. The rules of the investing game have fundamentally changed.
They really have.
Moving forward, you have to factor in regulatory capture, cloud compliance moats, the booming AI versus AI cybersecurity race, and the massive global spread of hardware demand. The keys to the vault are now heavily guarded, and the market is adjusting accordingly.
And as we navigate this new reality, it leaves us with a critical, somewhat unsettling question to ponder.
Okay.
We've spent a lot of time today talking about geopolitical strategy, massive corporate budgets, and government regulations. But if these bleeding-edge AI models become as tightly guarded and restricted by governments as nuclear secrets, what happens to the average startup founder in a garage?
That's a great point.
What happens to the brilliant college student trying to build the next world-changing application? If the next generation of global innovators is permanently locked out of the most powerful tools in existence, will they be forced to rely on underground, unregulated, open-source models just to compete in the future economy?
That is a lingering thought that could very well shape the entire next decade of technology and innovation. It's absolutely something every investor should be thinking about as this landscape continues to evolve. Thank you for joining us today for this exploration. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.